Hi, everyone. Welcome to this power session where we're going to introduce the Technology Toolbox course coming up here in a few weeks. We're excited to be here today with one of our kind of best partners, most supportive, really knowledgeable partners, ASTRHO, Paul and Ken. And maybe I'll let you guys say a little bit about yourselves and your roles, why you know technology so well.
Sure. Well, I'll go ahead and start. My name is Paul Hall. I'm the media marketing manager at ASTRHO. I pretty much deal with all the partnerships. So I've talked to hundreds of different partners out there in the vacation rental space. So I have a pretty decent knowledge of what's out there and what can help you best with your business. So feel free to fire your questions away.
And that is Ken, even though it says Paul at the bottom of the screen here in the fancy room or hallway.
Yeah, I guess I got some setting wrong there. I got to go dig that out and fix it. Yeah, I'm Ken Taylor, the director of operations here at ASTRHO, and I sort of have my finger in all the different bits and pieces as we've been growing and moving along. Which, not to say that I know everything by any means. That's one of the nice things about a growing company is that you always learn something new, no matter where you are. And so I'm glad to be here to share with you what we've learned and what we can help you with to make your business work better.
Our other instructors for this course are noise aware, and hopefully they're still able to join us today for this quick intro session. But noise aware has played a role in contributing to the content of the course. And obviously they monitor noise in homes and are more in the category of like smart home technology solutions, whereas ASTRHO is more of the property management solution. So we'll talk about that. For those of you on the line, feel free to post questions throughout. If we don't get to them right away, we'll leave some time at the end. This is very casual. We just want to introduce the course. So I'm going to share my screen. We have a few slides here to guide us through. So for those of you that are new to ASTRHO, my name is Heather. I sit on the board here at the Association for Short-Term Rental Homeowners, and our mission is to provide education and resources for short-term rental homeowners. And so typically our audience is entrepreneurs, operators that own portfolios of their own homes or are expanding to even start to manage others, but primarily do-it-yourself entrepreneurs really wanting to learn how to, work smarter, not harder. So that's why this technology course is so great. And it starts November 1st. So this is just a sneak peek to the full 1-week power course. As a reminder, ASTRHO has a free tier. You can join and get involved in our community and chat with other members and experts. But to get access to the courses and to get access to Host GPO, for those of you that don't know, Host GPO is normally not available until you have several homes. But by joining ASTRHO, you get access to this, and it's discounts to retailers like Williams-Sonoma, other home goods stores. It really unlocks a lot of different discounts and opportunities to get like quick packages of goods to update your home, all the supplies you need to run a short-term rental. So all of that is included in the Premier membership tier of $160 a year. This course is one of 4 that we offer quarterly, 1 to 2 times throughout the year. So by paying that fee, you're always getting access to these experts that are running these courses. So just to kind of do this overview, you've met Ken here. He's one of our instructors, and Paul as well. We also have, again, folks with noise aware. We have other contributors that are not instructors, but are technology experts that have been in short-term rental and technology a long time. Terry and Ted also are contributors to this content. So this isn't just one person. This was a committee of people coming together to really figure out how to talk about technology and provide guidance on, again, how to work smarter, not harder. So this is the course. It's 7 days. It's an online virtual course, but we do have a few live sessions. And the goal is over that 7 days, you have access to these experts, post your questions, review the material. And it's really everything and anything you ever want to know about technology. But how we've broken it down is, can you benefit from it? Is it worth the cost? There's an approach of, hands-on versus hands-off, how to even get started. And then the philosophy around change management, old ways to new ways. So I thought I'd start with this slide. And then this can kick off kind of our Q&A. So where owner res really sits in the middle, and folks may not have this ecosystem, but if you do choose to have a property management system or property reservation channel management system, in many cases, you can add on all these other integrations. And you can see there's, guest communication, smart home technology, and it can be really complex. But ultimately, whatever tech you use should make your life easier. And a lot of this is really accessible. It's kind of surprising how probably in the last 5 years, this technology has become more affordable too, really easy to put in place. I'll kind of leave this slide up and let's just talk about maybe Ken and Paul, either one of you want to go first. What do you see is like a typical technology journey for someone who has their first home and maybe says, okay, I'm going to start on Airbnb, and then what happens next kind of, and how do you see that technology journey?
Well, when you have somebody starting with Airbnb alone, Airbnb is a fairly thoroughgoing environment of their, I suppose you could consider it to the old America Online, where they want you to stay in there and they provide everything that you would generally think that you need to start going with. And so there's an awful lot of people that learned how to use the internet through America Online. But then eventually after a while, you realize, gee, there's this whole entire rest of the World Wide Web, all this other stuff. And similarly, Airbnb, they've got a lot of very good tools and useful things you can do for sending out information to your guests and communicating with them. That's all built into their walled garden. And so it is an excellent place to start. But eventually you will realize, there are more out there than just Airbnb. And then if you want to deal with other systems such as Vrbo or Booking.com or any others, now you got to consider, well, do I have to treat each of those separately? Is that going to be, now I've got 3 times as much work? Or am I going to pull them together in some fashion? And that's what OwnerRes is for, to make it so that you can coordinate all those disparate systems in a coordinated fashion. But normally Airbnb probably is one of the lead. I mean, I guess I don't have access to their statistics, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were the first stop for most American vacation rental owners that are new and just getting into it, just because they are so well known and fairly comprehensive in their own world, as it were.
And we do have a lot of members who, start with one or the other, or maybe try to be on 2, and it can be very manual. There's some ways you can connect the 2, which we'll talk about in the class. If you don't have lots of tech, there's iCal link ways you can connect kind of your Vrbo and your Airbnb or even Booking.com. But as you advance and realize that there's this whole world of distribution and you want to have access to it, or you have certain pain points that you want to solve, like maybe noise, right? You want to have noise monitored to make sure you can catch if parties are happening in your home. Maybe Paul, I'll come to you next because I know you're kind of the integrations expert at OwnerRes. Can you describe maybe a typical, like, what is an advanced technology? So when you start out, you might just use the channel and that's it. But then as you grow, what are some of the more advanced things you typically see?
Yeah, so typically, like you're saying, they'll start on a platform like Airbnb, but then they start thinking, well, how do I take a direct booking when, maybe I want to do dynamic pricing, which is, I feel like a lot of people nowadays, they have a dynamic pricing partner that they work with. So we're talking Price Labs or Beyond and a handful of others. That's probably one of the most popular, I'd say, first integrations that people make, just because it is really easy to get started with that. And people make a lot more money when they use them, as we've seen over time. So that's probably the first integration I would say people would jump to. After that, there are kind of obvious ones like automated door locks. They make it so much easier to not only, set the codes, you can just automate all of that process via OwnerRes and the, like a remote lock type situation.
Do you mind if we stay on locks for a minute, actually? So when you say automate door locks, you mean like, I think that means the code automatically changes. Like some people may not even be aware this technology exists, I guess, if you don't mind explaining a little more.
Yeah, so basically when you get a booking, if you have your door lock service connected with a property management system like OwnerRez, we will auto-generate the codes for that booking. That code is stored in the booking, and then you can then set up templates to automatically send that code out to your guests. So that way you really don't have to do anything. You just, the door code sets, the email goes out, they show up, they go in with the door code that automatically got sent out. So it just really removes a lot of the manual process that you would normally have to do. And it's pretty hands off from there on. I mean, maybe you have to send a refund or something. Maybe you have to go in and do something for that, or you need to adjust a charge. But if day to day, if everything works the way it should, you really don't have to do anything.
Thanks for that. Just wanted to go a little deeper on what that means by automating a door lock. Yeah, what would be the next thing? So pricing, technology, door locks. Is there a third that's kind of what you typically see as a really important one?
I see a lot of people like the guidebooks. So they like a Touch Day, Rubaru. You can basically create a guidebook, and then what that does is it'll give you a link, and you can include that in your email templates. It'll automatically go out from a system like OwnerRez, and then your guests can then click that guidebook, and it'll, you can make it as detailed or not, but a lot of the time it'll show steps for, how to take out the trash, what to do when you're checking out, where can you find certain things in the property. And it's basically like has the same feel of having an app, like your own app for your business, except most of the time it's just a web app. And like I said, you can customize it however you want, so you can make it really detailed as well.
And all of that, like all three of those technologies, pricing, door locks, and like guest books, you really do want them to be like integrated into a system, right? So that it's all linking.
Yeah, you definitely would want to use a property management system. It just makes everything a lot easier, because then you have a central hub where everything is connected. So you don't have to worry about, well, how do I connect this to Airbnb and Vrbo? You just have to connect it to one place, and then everything distributes from there as far as your messaging goes. So it's just one central platform, makes it a lot easier.
I went to the next slide just to kind of keep the conversation going. But I do want to kind of call out to the audience here. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to jump in. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Again, the course starts November 1st. Let me just make sure, there we go, so we can see all of you now. So again, I would encourage anyone on the line, some of the, we talked about kind of the most common things, just, having Paul's experience, and then we talked about how people get started, right? Your own channel, there's nothing wrong with that. But as you start to understand what your properties need, what your pain points are, then you start to evolve into these other advanced areas. Maybe I'll just ask this question, like, when you are dealing, and we'll talk about this more in the course, and I'll come back to you, Ken. When you see someone dealing with a problem and they're trying to find technology to solve that problem, what are some of the recommendations you give folks? Like, how do they even get started? It can be just like so overwhelming.
Well, honestly, that's one of the reasons that we have our forums on our website. And there are also many other resources out there. I know there's various Facebook groups and things, but oftentimes it's the best resource is from your peers. In the vacation rental community, I suppose you might get rivalries, but most of the time, your neighbor down the street that's also doing a rent is not your enemy. He's really more of a friend. And I see a lot of that where people are saying, well, this one works well for us. And that can be particularly relevant depending on what you're looking for, because some things might work better in one particular geographic area than others. For instance, if you're working on these dynamic pricing systems, one of their algorithms might happen to work better in this state versus some other state. And they're not necessarily going to tell you, they may not even know that. And we certainly wouldn't know that, but your peers would probably, well, I tried this one, it didn't work that great. And I tried this other one, it worked great. Well, there you are. And we get this sometimes with the door locks. Well, what hardware works well? Well, this hardware is a little wonky if it's constantly raining. Well, this hardware doesn't really like it if it's all too freezing and icy cold. This one doesn't really like the super hot temperatures. So, that might be good to talk to your peers that way too, just to find out from their experiences and learn that way.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, and that's one of the reasons ASTRHO's even here as well, right? Is so that you can get that unbiased response and not from the vendor themselves, right? To be able to kind of do the research and figure out what is the best fit for you. I guess I'd be curious to know, as people have these different pain points, and like you said, Ken, encouraging people to reach out to in peer communities. And OwnerRez has a forum as well for all of your integration partners. I'm curious, Paul, to ask you, what are some of the things that you find people are most surprised exists and are like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know I could find technology that did X?
Well, I don't know myself personally. This is one thing I still don't quite understand fully. Paul already spoke about this when you asked him. One of the very first pieces of technology is the guest book, the electronic guest book. And I remember when we had our first partner, and we've always had a policy of open API. Anybody that thinks they have a business model that wants to connect to us is welcome to do that. And I remember that one, and like I just don't see why anybody's ever going to use this. But hey, what do I? And sure enough, as soon as they did, it just burned down the house. Everybody was saying how much they loved it, how wonderful it was. And well, okay, that's that's why I don't make these decisions. So when you've got, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and I don't know what I don't know, and so seeing what there is. You might have the things that you wouldn't even think of, like I wouldn't have thought of a guest book. Now the door locks, that's kind of obvious because every door has a lock, and being able to control them remotely, that kind of makes sense. We see, however, a lot of people that aren't necessarily wanting to start with that one because they say, well, gee, what if the internet goes down and I can't get at the lock? Well, usually the locks have backups and things. There's ways to deal with that, but probably the guest book is definitely a lot more common than I would have expected.
And when, the guest books has like a lot to it. I don't know, Paul, if you know the answer to this, is there something that is like, people love this, like this really solves this problem? Maybe they get less calls from guests. What is it about the guest book? To your point, Ken, right? It's like, you didn't see it either. What's so great about it?
Well, the guest book's really great because you can have all the check-in information laid out very easily. They don't have to go back and find the email you sent them a week ago or anything. It's kind of like a one-stop shop for everything you need to know once you get to the property. And that could be also like what around is, a good restaurant, or what's a good, local place to go check out, like a hike or something. So it doesn't just have to be about the property. And some use this as an upsell platform too, to say, hey, if you want to buy these bed sheets, this is a link to my store where you can do that. So there's lots of things you can do with it.
So it's almost like you can increase your revenue too by using that technology to sell kind of other things. And maybe if you're interested in doing that, you would need to research which guest book providers have that feature. Maybe not all of them do.
Well, what you can do is you can use the guest book, and maybe some of them have that feature, but you could also work with another integration like the Host Co, where you can create your own store and then they give you a link. So then you put that link in your guest book, and then from there they can just click the link and then go pay for whatever it is.
Yeah, very cool. I've heard of that a little bit, where if you really have like, it's somewhat hotel-like sometimes, right? You can buy the robe at the hotel and things like that.
Right.
But if you can operationally manage like restocking and selling things, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And then as far as like stuff that people wouldn't think about, or maybe just don't know that's out there, there's lots of different types of integration that do automation. So one of our newer partners is Be Home 24/7, and you can automate all of your smart devices essentially. So if you have a smart thermostat, you can have it so, okay, this person's coming in and checking in Friday, don't turn on the AC till an hour beforehand, or turn it off, as soon as they leave or something like that. So you can do all these really unique automations that could save you a ton of money and in power, just power, if you want to look at it that way. or even just like knowing when a door is closed or when the window is shut, things like that. You can have all these different types of sensors in your house.
Is that censored? That's not Be Home 24/7, or that would be?
So Be Home 24/7 would be the service essentially, and you would connect your smart device to them, and then they connect with us, so you can do the automations with,
Like you could
booking.
set the timing to be an hour or 2 hours or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really interesting one to think about, the not just generating revenue of selling things, but cost saving of like your power or AC expense.
Exactly. Especially in the
Yeah.
summer, like that could be a huge savings.
Yeah.
Or winter. Yeah.
We do have a question. Let me see here. So, oh, it looks like there's having some technical difficulty. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can hear us okay. Yeah, this is great. Use this Q&A to post any questions. So please type away in that Q&A section of Zoom, and we'll see it pop up. And then I guess maybe I would say, Paul and Ken, to either of you, this is the majority of our ASTRHO audience too, folks that have started out and maybe are trying to figure out, what tech they need. And you mentioned, pricing is one of the first ones. But if I know, I need to take the plunge, I want to automate a lot of the things you were just talking about, Paul. I really need a PMS. What are some of your recommendations about the questions or the approach you take when you're trying to evaluate which one to choose? When people are evaluating you, what are some of the common things how they do that, how they go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we try to touch on that when we do our weekly demos of why pick OwnerRez versus the others. And there's quite a few reasons. One of the more maybe not so obvious ones is go look at Airbnb and Vrbo and see who are their elite partners, who are their preferred partners, who do they have the highest level of integration with. OwnerRez has the highest with both of those, which is, that's why OwnerRez is a great option for people. But there are plenty of others. There's at least 9 others out there that also have that, at least with Vrbo. So I would say first step, go look at that, because what that means is that you're going to have the most up-to-date integration with those channels, which is the most important, because you don't want to start getting direct or double bookings, which if a partner does not have that status, that could mean that they had issues with this in the past, or they just haven't been able to get that status because of that. So that's definitely something to think about. Support is a big one. That's something we pride ourselves on, is having really great support. It's one thing to have really good support before they actually sign up, but after is more important, I would say. And I think most people would say, what kind of support do they offer? How quick do they get back to you? Maybe just try to write into their support desk, see how long it takes to get back with the question that you sent in. Our support is pretty quick, and we make sure we get the answer fully completed. We will run it up the ladder if we need to the devs to get you a really, really great answer. I mean, if you write in today, you'll probably get an answer later today, if not early tomorrow, or actually tomorrow's Saturday. So maybe, well, some people work on the weekend. Ken is Ken,
you do have 24/7 support, right?
we try to get
That
Ken to not be on the tickets as much as he is, but it's hard to keep him away. So
that is a really good point. I mean, I know you're obviously can speak intimately about OwnerRez, but that research on like who does have the best integrations with Vrbo and Airbnb, if those are important channels to you, you definitely want to pick a partner who is up to date on the APIs and making sure those are solid connections. That's a really great one. And then what you said about customer service, because I have seen that, if you stumble in that area, it really can cost the owner's revenue, if problems don't get solved, and can go a long way just to know that there's always somebody there who's going to like respond to you. So the other thing that we've heard people, we get into this more in the class, is like how you might make a list of your pain points. So you, as you're evaluating, you really are hitting on the areas, like if certain things about accounting or, that are challenging for you, I don't know if you've seen best practices around how to do that kind of like request for a proposal, you know, feature set. If people come to you with that kind of a, you know, specific list.
Well, we do probably the largest issue that people have has to do with automated messaging, because just by the nature of the cycle of doing a rental, you're going to have certainly a minimum of half a dozen, probably, you know, maybe even a dozen or more back and forth communications, whether they, you know, make an inquiry and then you send a quote and then they book and you have a confirmation, invoices, receipts, and directions, arrival, you know, your door code, how you got to clean up at the end, that kind of thing. There's going to be a lot of back and forth, and particularly when you have a person that's relatively new to the vacation rental industry, they might think, well, I'll just write these all up and I can just send them out as I need to. How hard can it be? Well, that gets pretty old pretty fast, doing those by hand. So you definitely want to have a system that is capable of sending out automatic messages on a schedule that you have programmed. Now, that seems like a fairly straightforward thing. Unfortunately, the listing channels have made it a little bit harder because they've been trying to, again, this whole walled garden thing where they have their own internal communication system, not email. So the question you would have would be, well, how does your channel manager work with those systems? Does it have a way of working around them? Is it able to work in them or with them? You know, just how does that flow work? And the answer is going to be different for everyone and different for every channel. I mean, I could speak specifically to Airbnb and Vrbo. The way they function with OwnerRez in both cases is quite wildly different, but we do have a solution for the both of them that at the end of the day, the result's the same. Your stuff gets sent out automatically.
That's a really great one, and probably one of the most common pain points too. Yeah. Well, we're down to the last couple of minutes. I'll do one more call to the group. If there are any questions, please post them in that Q&A section. But yeah, we'll be back on November 1st for a week. We'll have access to these guys and to some other experts to go deeper and really for you to bring your specific, you know, issues. And we can talk about different companies and vendors and, you know, how you approach, making the decision to see what is the best fit tech for you. Okay, I'll do one last call. I don't see any other questions. Oh, got one. So to sign up for the course, you just need to be a Premier member and have opted into that annual membership at ASTRHO. And then there's a course section within the community. And in addition to this course, you'll see there's another marketing course coming up. But yeah, just go into, once you're a Premier member, you'll have access to courses. And it's on the left-hand side once you're in the community. So yeah, thanks for that. Great question. And this week's course is still available. Maybe I can chat with you. We have a how to price course going on right now, which I think this Vivian is asking about. And if you are a Premier host member, you should be able to jump in, but I can message you outside, Vivian, if you're having trouble getting in, for sure, because it is still going on right now. We're kind of midway through. But yeah, great questions. Well, we can wrap there. Thanks, Paul and Ken, again for your time today. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to the full course coming up here in a few weeks.
Yeah, sounds great.
Thanks
for having us.
Have a great rest of the day. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.